So it's afternoon, so I figure we might as well just go ahead and get started. First order of business is to approve the minutes from last time. May I have a nomination that we do so?
I approve.
Yay. And seconding?
I'll second.
Awesome. I can't type in the chat. All right. Well, we're recording the meeting. Hopefully that will do the job. And I think we should just go ahead and move right on to Dr. McGowan's presentation. Dr. McGowan, if you'd like to wait a little bit, it's very shortly afternoon, so you might get more of an audience in just a little while, but they're filling up fast. You're still muted.
No problem. I'll just give it a second if you'd like me to, Kelsey. Not a problem.
Whatever you think is reasonable.
I'll give it a second. Only one problem though, Kelsey. I do need to be able to share my screen.
I think I can make you a co-host.
Super.
Oh no, but I can remove you. Put you in a waiting room.
If you click on the right arrow next to share screen, and it'll say allow participants, multiple participants to share at the same time or something like that.
Huh. It says stop video, spotlight for everyone, allow to record, allow to multi-pin.
No, on the
rename, put in waiting.
So your button down at the bottom, the green one that says share screen.
Try now.
Perfect.
Oh, great.
Thank you. We'll give people just another second. If you haven't already, and you can I also go in the chat, do you know? Oh, there we go. Yep. Oops.
It occurs to me we never actually voted on the approval of minutes. All in favor? Huh. Well, all against. Great.
So if you haven't had a chance yet to go into the exchange and enter any feedback or ask any questions, feel free to do that. I put the link in the chat. The QR code, if that's easier for you, is up on your screen right now also. And we'll just give people one more minute, Kelsey, and then I'll get started. Okay. Folks, I'm very excited to be presenting to you today a bunch of big topics to go through with you. One, our logo is finalized. They are on your screen. On the right-hand side in the top is the K5 Bruin, which we decided it was better to have a less vicious Bruin perhaps at that age level. And that on the left-hand side, that would be just the Bruin in general, the 612 Bruin. I guess anybody could use it, of course. But if we wanted a K5 friendlier version, we have it also. And on the bottom left-hand corner, it says Bruins Brighton. There is identical type lettering for Council Rock to go underneath the Bruin and French Road and the middle school and the high school. So when you see logos come up, you'll see the same type of lettering just with the school name. And there's a watermark, I believe they call it, with the paw print and the B. And the split B is the other part of the logo, which we had before, but that is maintained also. So this will all come out in an e-news tomorrow as well to the school community. We would simply say to people, use it as much as you would like to use it. We'd like to be consistent in the branding, though. That was one thing that came up in the entire mascot logo process, is people saying, if we could have some consistency both in color, lettering, and the use of logos. And so we're asking people, by providing them to everybody and saying, please use this, asking that we start to move that direction in terms of color schemes and everything else. So I was a fan actually of the yellow, but yellow is not actually part of our color scheme. So as you're thinking about that, the blue, gray is or silver is our accent color. And that color blue, the navy blue, and of course white as well. So just something to think about. There will be a link that comes out at the beginning of next week, also to BSN, to a team store for anybody and everybody, which we will send out for people to stock up on all of their Bruin gear. And I know people will be excited about that as well. And like I said, use it as much as you would like. We would love that. Next steps for this, mentioned release tomorrow, gear next week, split B, also consistency in the lettering for each school, which I mentioned to you. School calendar, very exciting news for you. So this is being released in 8 minutes by eNews to the community. And this is the presentation that I gave to the board. I want to walk through it with you and answer any questions you have, but there are some pretty significant changes that I'd like to point out to you. First of all, just to give people a sense of what the process looks like, we take a look at the state dates in terms of 3-8 testing, regents exams, et cetera. We have a variety of contractual agreements we have to look at. There is a regional calendar developed by BOCES. Both myself and our union president, Judy Wegman, sit on that committee, actually representing groups in the region. And the reason why that BOCES calendar is important is many of our kids attend programs at BOCES. So if we have a calendar that's wildly different, they miss instruction on certain days, or they are not, their program is not available on the day that we might have school. So we try and stay as close as we can to that. We think about our goals in the process, which I'll talk to you about in a second. We develop a draft calendar collaboratively internally with a variety of people. And then we present a draft calendar to the Board of Education for their consideration and hopeful adoption. The challenges we had this year was a very late Labor Day for 21-22. The positioning of holidays that we traditionally observe, for example, Rosh Hashanah, happening right after Labor Day and how that impacts that week. Rating Day as well, which is the last day you can count as a day of instruction in June for buildings that have Regents exams, which in our case is just the high school. That was originally going to be on the Thursday of that week, which makes zero sense whatsoever. Fortunately, State Ed saw the light and scheduled it on Friday. Scoring windows for 3-8 assessments, which push our April break to the 3rd week, so beginning April 18th, because the window for scoring goes up to April 13th. So you couldn't use that week inclusive of Good Friday as a spring break week, for example. We had a desire internally to have a more inclusive calendar, and you'll see some significant changes to that point. And a snow day pilot program. In other words, leveraging the opportunity to utilize technology to provide instruction on what otherwise would have traditionally been known as snow days. We can now think about that differently and use that day similar to the Wednesdays that we currently have, and have an all remote day on that instead of having a total closure. Our objectives were to make sure we meet the number of days that the state expect us to develop a more inclusive calendar that honors more members of our community. Think about what our calendar communicates, because a calendar does communicate your values and what's on your mind. We want to take advantage of the scoring and makeup windows to the best of our ability. So not scheduling a break during scoring windows is important. Provide certainty and predictability for families. The 3rd week in April has been traditionally a week that we've tried to honor. It just always fluctuates based on state assessments over the last, I'd say, 7-8 years. And also make sure that we're honoring the BOCES calendar to the best of our ability because of that continuity of instruction issue for many of our kids. So the proposals we made within the calendar process would be to indicate a recognition of Indigenous people on the observed federal holiday of Columbus Day. Interesting, where we landed on the language is that we are observing Columbus Day and we are recognizing Indigenous people. By not eliminating Columbus Day from our language, I actually think it's a more powerful message about the recognition of what that holiday means. The fact that it is an observed holiday, a federal observed holiday, which we can't change, that is what it is. But also the elimination of the language, in a sense, whitewashes the history that should be talked about. And so I think observing the holiday while also recognizing Indigenous people, which we started to do this year in both instructional strategies, but land acknowledgements at board meetings at that time and at Thanksgiving as well. So just a different way to approach that, but I think a more inclusive way to approach it that will foster some really powerful instructional conversations as well. I also will tell you that is something that was encouraged, not always the combining of the language, but that decision was encouraged by 7th graders writing letters to us over the last 2 years to the board and advocating some to keep Columbus Day, some to eliminate it, but a really powerful conversation inspired by kids, which we're excited about. We'd like to utilize we are going to utilize the second day of Rosh Hashanah for Superintendent's Conference Day. It doesn't affect kids, but it does affect staff, and it also affects the community and the message that it sends. We are not intending for that in the future to be an instructional day and to eliminate the second day of Rosh Hashanah from families observing. We did have to use it this year for staff only, and we will accommodate all staff who can't or won't or would not like to attend on that day, who have religious observances. But if we had had 2 days for Rosh Hashanah for everybody and not done a superintendent's conference day, our opening day with staff would have been Thursday of the week of Labor Day, with just 1 day with kids on Friday. And that doesn't seem to be a very effective approach. 2 days is short enough. We'd also like to and plan to leverage technology, providing remote instruction during what would have traditionally, again, been snow days, emergency days. So to provide some additional calendar flexibility, but also to think about continuity of instruction on those days. And we'd like to be flexible in that so that it looks a lot more like the Wednesdays currently, the all remote days. And finally, we'd like to be more inclusive and thoughtful in providing a day off for the Muslim holiday Eid and in recognition of Juneteenth. We're really excited about both of those additions to the calendar. It is far past time for us to recognize Eid. I think that there are many members of our school community that put their religious observance that is very important to them completely on the back burner and don't ask for accommodation and don't ask for something to look different and have said, no, I will put school in front of that. And it's heartbreaking to consider that notion that we're asking people to do that when it's a significant number of people in our community that should have the opportunity. And there's many kids in our community that have never celebrated properly on that holiday because of their commitment to still coming to school. And we'd like to make sure that we're recognizing that also. In addition, not to gloss over it, the Juneteenth holiday, which is exceptionally important as well. And we know marking the final recognition of the emancipation of slaves reaching Texas, this is an important moment in our history for our kids to learn more about, for us to talk more about, to foster better conversations. It will be recognized statewide with a day off for students, but also in our case for our staff as well, feeling that this is an important recognition and moment that, again, walks the walk of being more inclusive and not just talking the talk. And so we're excited about both of those opportunities. If the snow day opportunity does not exist based on changes in state regulation, we will not be changing Juneteenth or Eid as new holidays on the calendar. We will be looking at the Wednesday before Thanksgiving or at December 23rd as 2 days that for the rest of us are convenient, nice, and great days to have off that I like as much as anybody, but they're not religious observances, and we shouldn't be sacrificing those important historical religious observances for days off that are nice or convenient. So we will look at those two as opportunities to gain additional days if we can't utilize emergency days differently. So those are the two additional considerations. What will happen going forward? We would expect that now that we've included these holidays, that won't change in future consideration, and that the snow day issue will need to be resolved by the state of New York. So other items on the list that I wanted to mention to you, kind of the potpourri before I go to your questions. Budget. First of all, the governor's proposal is out. It was sort of indecipherable in that it was done very, very differently than it's been done in the past. And we feel right now that it is not a dramatic reduction to state aid. It is not the foundation aid that we need, but it's also not a doomsday, you're not going to get anything. A lot of it hinges on federal money. So this discussion about a federal bailout, wherever you are on the political spectrum, I will tell you directly impacts us significantly. So where that lands will have an impact on what the state decides to do. The governor's leveraged quite a bit of the funding that he has promised on getting federal money. So we'll see where that lands and be able to communicate to you. Where we've generally left things with our administrative team and in our planning is that we are expecting to not dramatically reduce program. We are looking to find efficiencies as we always do, and we are planning for that, but we're not planning on coming to you saying we're cutting all of these things. We may be able to come close to holding our own. I know there's lots of questions about full day kindergarten. It is still being planned for in the budget. What we will be doing though is communicating to the community that we are leveraging current dollars, rainy day funds, and savings to be able to maintain programs and to implement full day kindergarten. And there's an implication to that long term. So we are doing a lot of long-term planning about what does this mean in 5 years? How can we pull some types of aid like full day kindergarten conversion aid, which is available one time, and spread that out over time? And are there other opportunities for us to gain revenue? And we're actively exploring some of those areas as well. So more information to come after the break for sure, but tomorrow there will be a link in the district e-news asking people to complete the budget thought exchange and give us their feedback on what's most important to them. We do need to know that. But again, to the very specific question people have asked, full day kindergarten still being planned for. We will communicate sooner rather than later if that's going to change. But right now we are moving towards that, and that is a big goal for us in the budget process as well. Reopening has come up often, and I just want to clarify and kind of if you were on the French Road virtual town hall or the high school one, but probably even more so French Road last night, you heard this brief. I refer to it as a sermon, so to speak, but I want to get some information out to people and have you understand where we're at. And the COVID update yesterday spelled some of this out too. So bear with me if you have to hear it a second time, but it is important for people to hear. First of all, reopening terminology is important. When you read stories in the media or you hear about either the president or the CDC talking about reopening, we are reopened. They're not referring to our type of reopening. They're talking about districts and places, large urbans, small rurals across the country where nobody has darkened the door since last year, and certainly not in this school year. So their version of reopening when they talk about that is coming back to models like ours, hybrid models that include mitigating strategies like social distancing, for example. Number one. Number two, when they talk about reopening and you hear comments and the CDC director, and it's been said now she was acting in her personal capacity, not professionally, said, well, vaccination of staff is not essential to reopening. Again, the context is important. What she was referring to is reopening in the sense that coming back into hybrid type models or models that acknowledge social distancing doesn't require everybody to be vaccinated. And that is absolutely correct. And that's what we're doing now. I would propose and feel strongly about the idea that access to vaccination for staff members, though, is essential if we're going to talk about having double the number of people back into buildings. So changing social distancing, changing the things that are working right now does require having people vaccinated, having adults vaccinated in the building, both to keep your children safe, but also we have a responsibility to the people that work in the district as well. That is part of our constituency. As an employer, have a responsibility to provide a safe environment. And it is important to us to make sure that people have that protection before we double the number of kids who are coming to school each and every day. So it is important, and we have staked out that ground. There's a lot of conversation about, well, could distancing be lessened? I don't know. I am fond of saying I'm not a useful doctor. I couldn't tell you what the studies are. I couldn't tell you that 3 feet is better than 6 feet. The going thinking currently is 6 feet. That may change, and if that changes, we can explore additional steps. But right now, currently at this moment, we could not have everybody come back to the building, excuse me, unless distancing changes. Pardon me. The big challenge for us is having enough space for all our kids in the building, and 6 feet of distance prevents having any more come in. So when you hear people say, well, in other districts, they've been able to do that, and across the state, other people have been able to open. Don't get this wrong. We would love to have everybody back. That would be our desire. It's certainly our preferred state of operating for sure, but we can't do it in our space. Always the worst time to get a tickle in the throat. In our space, and we looked at this very, very carefully. Everybody's space is different, and everybody's capability in terms of the number of people they have working is different. So in some districts where they had more space, they could spread kids out further, still provide distance, and had enough adults to be with them in those spaces. And that proved impossible for us to do. It's not that we don't want to or that it's too hard. We would love to. It's just simply physically not possible. So that's an issue for us. We've also been asked about the Wednesdays and bringing kids back on the Wednesday, which some districts have announced they're willing to do. Some of the reason why those districts have decided to do that is the quality of their program on that day. And their assessment that their day, that Wednesday, was not as effective as perhaps they wanted it to be, and that it would be more effective to bring kids back, even if only every other week. So let's think about this for a second. You're talking about ballpark 20 weeks of school left. Every other week, meaning 10 in-person days. That also means 10 more asynchronous days. So the cost benefit is, are 10 in-person days worth 10 more asynchronous days, or by having 20 Zoom Wednesdays, are we better off? And we've made the assessment instructionally that we're better off with the 20 Zoom Wednesdays than getting 10 more asynchronous days, as great as the 10 in-person days might be. It's just simply not enough at this point to change that schedule, and we are not planning on doing so. We'll continue to evaluate that, but that's the instructional decision we've made at this point. Some people have said, wow, wrestling, I mean, literally kids can roll around on the mat, and yet we can't have more kids sit next to each other, or we can't have more kids in performing arts, or we can't have more kids for activities. I totally agree with you. I said the same thing, really? But I will tell you, when some of the science has been explained to us about the number of people exchanging respiratory droplets for a short period of time, just people wrestling one-on-one, for example, and for a short period of time. And by the way, our kids are masked while they're participating, that it is been deemed by public health people as an acceptable risk, different than having kids in an enclosed classroom, double the number of people exchanging that many more respiratory droplets. Whether I agree or not is not the point. We are relying on public health experts to make those decisions and to advise us accordingly, which they have approved that to happen. I am hopeful that that means there will be a deeper look into lessening the distancing and thinking about possibilities for more kids to come back. And that's what I continue on an almost daily basis to advocate for with public health experts, with legislators, with anybody who will listen, that we'd like to really be thinking about that. But it all hinges on access to vaccines and having access to vaccines, because that is the really the linchpin to keeping everybody safe for us, which we, again, have to be concerned about our entire school community. We are having the same conversation about the arts. Why not more opportunity for the arts? Why just athletics? Completely agree with people that have asked that question. I'm on the same page, and I think that ought to be given a lot more attention, and that's what we are pounding the pavement with. Next steps in next year, your guess is as good as mine, and I wish I could provide you more certainty. If I had to guess, and I've gotten many of these guesses wrong, so let's not take this to the bank, as most people in the pandemic, these things change constantly. I would think that once there's significant vaccination happening in communities and among adults, that we'd have a lot more people able to come back to school, and that there would be a hard look at the restrictions that are currently in place. I would expect perhaps masking for kids, and it depends on the status of vaccination for kids as well, but that we would see people coming back next year, perhaps with masking, but less distancing, and that would allow us to bring kids back. Very, very hopeful about that. And as I hear about progress being made in getting more people vaccinated, I think that that's really the key that will allow us to see some more herd immunity, so to speak, and some more opportunities to bring more people into spaces. We'll see, but we are planning for all eventualities. I've also been asked, well, will there be remote opportunities if people aren't comfortable? I don't know, but I do know that that's what we're thinking, and that there will probably be the requirement to do that. I don't know what that would look like. Will it be you have to demonstrate a need, or will it be an option? I really don't know. Again, if you told me a year ago, I mean, we're still not at the 1 year mark of when we went out of school, that we would have operated a hybrid program. Heck, if you had told me we also would be the Bruins on this day, or that we'd have off Juneteenth and Eid, I'd say all in the next year. I'm super excited about those things. I'm very glad that we're going in that direction, but these are big rocks. And if we know nothing else, the only constant is change. And some smarter person than I quoted that, but that's essentially where we're at. All right, your questions. I'll put that code back up again for you. You can take a look. And like I said, I put the link in the chat as well. I just want to give you a minute to do that. I'm going to stop sharing and pull up another share so I can see the comments. And then also happy just to open it wide open and hear what you have to say. Give me 1 second. Seven people, 3 thoughts. Not a lot of Q&A probably. Just while you're doing that, so that April 18th, the 3rd week of April, is the break. That's always a question that comes up. And about 10 minutes ago, an email went to you, an e-news to all parents, with the actual calendar and the presentation that was given to the board, and kind of an explanation in narrative form too. All right, so I'm going to move over to the screen, take a look at the 3 thoughts. If there talks about continuing a remote model even after the pandemic, this learning method is working for many students. So to the point, I think I just mentioned that, yes, there is a conversation about that. And even beyond what would be required, are there ways we can leverage technology differently for certain students who this has benefited, and where school attendance is sometimes a difficulty for some kids, particularly some older students. We were definitely looking at that, and what does that say? Some of that will require change on the part of the state. So seat time and presence is defined right now by the state outside of the pandemic as being in school. So we're going to have to look at how our state can make adjustments, and we talk to them about that all the time as well. What sports will be happening this spring, at least looking at? So let me pull something up so that I give you the right information, because this is just happening within the last couple of days. We haven't announced this yet, but I'm happy to tell you that there is the section has approved a March 1st start date for football, volleyball, and cheerleading. Volleyball would be actually March 8th, probably for us, and there would be some modified opportunities beginning on March 15th. And then in terms of other spring sports, I would expect we'd see baseball, softball, boys across, girls across, track and field in all likelihood. And I can't think, if I'm leaving off a spring sport, please ask me and I can tell you. I think everything else would likely be approved for a late, for example, a late April through June schedule. So like a mini season for each of these, if I had to guess. So we haven't announced yet how we're going to handle each of those sports. Those are the state approvals. And we'll get that word out probably within the next week or so while we look at facilities and how the end of the other high-risk sports seasons will coincide with when we can use our spaces. Remember, space is so much more complicated now. We've had to reduce some modified teams, particularly basketball teams, for that reason, just having the right space, but also being able to clean that space and get people in and out. And I think I have answered all of the other questions. And the hiring of new staff comes after the budget's approved and we know what we're doing for next year. So usually that's late May, June. We try and wrap most of that up by early July, but that's when it would be happening. All right, so I'll stop the share now and just ask, is there anything else I can answer for people? Any other questions? Marian's asking about homecoming. Do you mean homecoming, some kind of homecoming for this year, Marian? So Dr. Hall explained last night on the Zoom, the virtual town hall, and to seniors yesterday also, the planning of a parade, kind of a modified parade, particularly to honor seniors and some activities around that. But I don't know. I don't think I could accurately explain any other details on it other than I know he's planning it. And Marian, you might have more details that you could probably speak to. Feel free if you want to tell everybody now.
Well, it would have to be very limited. And I was just wondering if at some point, what can we do to engage the community in supporting this? So that's my question. If you have any inside community, Chamber of Commerce or whatever, have you had any conversations with them?
None. I was on a chamber meeting yesterday and we didn't talk about it at all. But I think part of that is just for us, this is also day to day. And so where I've left it with principals, and this would be for all the buildings, and I encourage them to share this with you. And I said this to Sangeeta the other day in terms of building reps, feel free to engage them in this conversation. You know, we're just past we're almost mid-month now. Kind of the first week of every month, we should do a reevaluation. So I would expect first week of March, we'll be able to have better conversations with you about, okay, here's where numbers are at now. Here's what they're saying in terms of restrictions in the state. You know, all of a sudden there can be weddings and bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs. What does that mean? I heard yesterday now we're admitting fans to games for professional sports, but on a limited basis. This seems to be evolving very quickly. And then there's also this growing course. There's an article in the Times this morning of public health people that are worried about states like ours that are all of a sudden starting to open up under some political pressures, things really quickly. This is a long way of me saying, I think it's a month-to-month decision about what we can do. But I would expect once we hit March 1st, if things are still in a pretty good place, that we can start doing more of that in earnest and planning with more community groups. I did hear the local news, not our new name for the schools. When will that change? Michelle, what do you mean the new name for the schools?
They were using Brighton Barons when they were talking about the sports on this, I think it was Channel 10 or maybe 13, I can't remember, but it was it was showing the, I think it was the girls basketball, and they said Brighton Barons.
Yeah, I listen, all due respect to local news people, but I would not, the level of accuracy is one that is questionable at best. So we've communicated
I'm
clearly
sure.
what our name is, but that doesn't always translate. So,
I just didn't know if it was officially put out there to
Oh,
the
yeah.
people that need to know.
yep, it's out there in all of our Twitter and other social media pieces, which frankly is where they pick up most of their news often anyways, could not be more clear that it's Bruins, but channel 10 you said, because we'll
I can't, it was either 10 or 13. I can't remember. I was doing it real quick and then I got distracted from the kids, so I didn't get to really see the news.
you
So,
know, the launching of a new logo is a good opportunity to maybe put a reminder out to all of them anyway, so
Yeah.
that's helpful. I think probably for some people, especially if the sportscaster is a Rochester native, it probably rolls off the tongue pretty easily, and I can
I was
understand.
thinking that, yeah.
Yeah, probably. So thanks, Tomicka. This is so amazing. Appreciate that. Yes, the plan would be to do modified, Heather, similar to right now. We have some modified seasons. It's like, because the other seasons are shortened, it's almost a modified, but we're doing our best to provide some opportunities for kids. I don't know, Michelle, to your question about if the sports that didn't happen modified wise in the fall will be able to happen in the spring. I don't know the answer to that. It depends on our ability to have the space, basically. And the difficulty with soccer is lacrosse. So I'm not sure if that will be able to happen or not.
I mean, I have a really quick question
Sure.
as it relates to sports. Will the summer programs that are affiliated with Brighton, cheerleading and football, will those be able to take place? Have you heard anything about that?
I don't know. I think most of the approvals for sports, so I think the way it's working in the community is if they have been approved for schools, they're approved probably actually already for, youth groups outside of school. For us, it's just in terms of space and whether we will be able to utilize that space or not, and our comfort level with the precautions that have to be taken for using that space. But that, for us, that started to open up more and more. Even in the fall, we were able to allow the space to be used a little bit differently. The answer is I'm not sure, but if I had to guess, I'd say probably. But
Yay!
I don't know if you take that to the bank. And congratulations, by the way, everybody. Tiffany got an awesome new job and a pretty big deal. So congratulations
Thank
to
you
Tiffany.
so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
It's awesome. And Heather, Brighton Believes Day is happening. Each building has a plan for that. If they haven't put that out, I would check the principal's building newsletters, but they are all actively involved in Brighton Believes Day this year too. Any other questions for me? So I have now it'll be a 27-minute conversation with advocacy people from across the state via Zoom before an emergency meeting about vaccinating transportation people, which we're very interested in doing, in a half hour. So I'm going to bail out. I hate to do that to everybody, but I want to make sure I'm in tune with those things too. And if you have anything else for me, feel free to shoot me an email. I'm going to leave the exchange open too. So if you put a specific question in beyond what's already in that we missed, I'll try and answer that too. And if you had already gone into the exchange, you can go back in and see that, or shoot me an email, text, whatever works best for you. Good to see everybody. Take care. Stay healthy.
Thank you, Dr.
Thanks,
McGowan.
Kevin. Stay healthy too.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. All right. Let's move on to building reports. Now that we have Tiffany here today, we can get a sped update. Sorry, do you want? I caught you. You're putting food in
My
your mouth.
mouth. I'm trying to.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So really quick, we had our first meeting with the principal at Council Rock, and we did really a relax, relate, release. I was hearing that a lot of parents, well, we're all experiencing stress, but we wanted to give those parents some information on stress relief. Our next meeting with the principal will be February 24th at TCMS. And we are looking at body changes of children at that age. So the fun puberty stage. So that'll be our next topic. After that, in March, we move to the high school. And we have RIT and Cayuga presenting, as well as Autism Up. And we're just waiting to hear back from MCC. And we are looking at the next stage, you know, after kids graduate, the supports for students who may need supports. How does that operate in a world of COVID, and also just in general, how does that operate in a college setting? So that's where we're at. And I emailed the chairs of French Road to see what they'd like to do as well.
Excellent.
We're
Thank you. You
spending-
guys have a lot going on. That's awesome. The topics sound great.
Yeah.
So thank you to both of you, you and Caitlin.
Thank
Council Rock.
That would be me. Okay, bear with me because usually it's not me doing this. So
No
I just found
worries.
out, I'm like, I'm the only one here. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I mean, it's been pretty quiet. We're officially in our, obviously the school's officially halfway through the year. And Council Rock's starting to work hard this spring to think about meaningful ways that we can continue to connect with the families, whether it's remote or hybrid, and build our community better. We have on the 11th is the virtual town hall for kindergarten parents. So anyone that's having kindergarten kids come in is happening. The virtual town hall for K through 2nd grade is happening as well.
Is that
the
February
break-
11th, Michelle? Is that
February 11th, yeah.
So tonight is kindergarten?
Tonight, yep. So the virtual town hall for kindergarten starts at 5:30. And then 6 o'clock will be the 1st and 2nd grade. Kindergarten probably could also attend too, so they can get an idea of what's happening for their next year, you know, for the kids going into next year. February 11th, they're doing a Brighton Families of Color group meeting. Valentine's Day, all the teachers are doing whatever they're doing, and each parent is just following whatever the teacher is doing. So that's happening today for the kids that are in school and tomorrow. And then obviously vacation break starts on the 19th. What else is happening? On the 23rd, there's a support group for parents of children and social with social and school related anxiety. That's happening. And then the second step live event is happening with Mrs. Ball and Mrs. Reedhead and friends. That's going to be a Zoom that's happening on the 25th of February in the evening. So, and we're starting the next year, kindergarten next year, kids coming in. It's been happening. Let's see here, incoming kindergarten information night was held, and what else happened? There'll be links that are attached in the Tappan Times. And anyone that didn't get any information for oncoming kindergartners, they should reach out to the school, particularly to Doris, who's there. Council Rock did a community donation for toys and used books. We did a really great job. The response was pretty amazing. All the donations were given to Rochester School District, school number 33. And we actually kept some donations right here at the Council Rock School for needs that were needed. And we were very thankful for the generosity. Let's hear what else. We did the, we just wanted to thank everybody who participated in the survey for the Brighton School District, receiving over 500 responses, which covered 78 pages of appreciation to all the school teachers and staff. So that was pretty amazing, in my opinion. I just think it's great how well we support our school district as a community. And then the Brighton Believes that was mentioned already is going to happen at our school, and all projects will be done on March 10th is what I was told. Lessons and instructions will be provided by Mrs. Ball and Mrs. Reedhead through Seesaw. And I guess there's going to be a drop-off box outside the school for people to drop off, whether you're an in-school or at home person, but more information will follow through the Tappan Times. And I think there's a website on the Brighton Central School District as well that has information on that. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So that's pretty much our communication to anybody that's going to Council Rock.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
How about French Road? Do we have, I know I saw someone here from French Road earlier. Anyone? No, did they log off? Okay. Well, if they come back, we'll try to get them if they come
Amy's
back.
still on, but she might not be in a position to
Yeah,
speak right
to
now. I don't know.
talk. Yeah, because I see her name on there, so she may just have stepped away. Let's move on to TCMS then. Nope. I saw
Hi.
her. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Wendy's on. All right, perfect.
Sorry.
No
Just trying to
worries.
type something. Okay, so TCMS. Yesterday, February 10th, we had our PTSA meeting, Parenting During the Pandemic. This was an opportunity for TCMS parents to meet and talk about their parenting experiences during the past several months, as well as share ideas for parenting strategies and family activities. The session was led by Erin Cusano from the TCMS Counseling Department. We had 10 parents who signed up to participate. We are considering scheduling another session if there is some interest to continue doing that. There is a virtual town hall tonight for TCMS families at 7:45. I know that I saw Zoom links for that in a previous email that went out. We can announce there is going to be a TCMS book fair from February 24th to March 6th. The book fair this year will be completely virtual. A link will be going out soon to preview what books will be available at the fair. And families will have the option to have books mailed directly to the school or to their home. Students and teachers can create and share wish lists, which we're very excited about. And then more information will be coming soon for that. Tiffany talked about the meeting with the principal coming up on February 24th at noon. I think it's going to be a great presentation on puberty and hygiene. And so we hope TCMS parents, families can make it. Heather is meeting with the TCMS Student Council to plan some Zoom activity nights. She's been doing a lot of research on different things, different activities and games that we might be able to get set up over Zoom for TCMS kids to come together and have a good time. And Mr. Nunez has requested that we do some teacher appreciation events, I guess would be the word. He gathered some information from staff about favorite things, favorite candy, etc. And he was suggesting that we adopt a department for a week and just provide some sunshine and joy in their lives, and hopefully they will feel very appreciated. So that is an effort that we're currently working on, and we'll be able to report more later. And I think that is everything for TCMS.
Excellent. Thank you. You guys have a lot going on too. All of a sudden, everyone's got a lot going on. BHS?
Okay, we have a lot going on too.
Yes, you do.
We hosted a meeting with the principal January 20th, in which Dr. Hall gave an overview of the course selection process. And like Tiffany said, we have a meeting coming up on March 24th that will be a joint meeting with SPED presenting a life after high school. Sounds interesting. Thank you for that. Again, the teacher appreciation document that we created went out on the 29th, and I've heard amazing, awesome feedback, including Mr. Tappan said it was worth its weight in gold. So I want to thank you again for the committee, anyone who worked on it with us, and then all the parents and the students, because it wouldn't have been possible without everyone writing in. Almost, it ended up being over 600 comments, which is incredible, and 78 pages. It was really long. So thank you for that. We did find out we've been fielding lots of questions asking for recorded meetings. So I have a link that I got from Dan that any meeting that has happened in the last year and hopefully has been recorded is on the website. So I will share that link in the chat. So just in case you guys get asked that same question, because we've been fielding a lot of those, do you have the recording of that meeting? Because I missed it, yada, yada, yada. So I just shared that.
Robin, can we put that link on our information when we do like the tap in times?
Definitely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been very helpful. And then lastly, we have literally been notified on Friday that the district is going ahead with planning on outdoor activities for the spring as soon as it gets warm and the cold goes away. Including for us, it would be activities like the senior bash, last banquet, spring fest, ham jam, graduation ceremonies. So we are in the thick of like trying to scramble and plan for these activities to provide planning and execution for the activities, as well as financial support. So I'm just putting it out there that probably by the next meeting, hopefully, we are going to be coming and asking for money to support these activities. Because as most of you know, our building funds were cut back this year because there wasn't anything happening. So that's going to be happening. As well as we're going to be fundraising. I think the first thing, the easy thing is to obviously just ask for the donations. We've had very good luck just putting it out there to the public, our wonderful family community, and just saying, hey, this is, if you have the wherewithal and would like to donate, here it is. We're also going to be reaching out to community organizations, Rotary, the Chamber of Commerce, etc., to see if they want to help with donations or sponsoring different activities or t-shirts or stuff like that. So just to keep that in mind. And if anyone wants to help, we could definitely use help fundraising. We could use help volunteering, etc., etc. So we've got a lot going on at the high school. So that's what I have. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you very much. If anyone else has any fundraising ideas too, throw them in the chat or get a hold of Robin or myself, because I think we're going to have to be a little creative if we don't get enough funds from donations and corporate sponsors on how to fundraise. But I think if we just present it that, the kids will finally get to do some type of, normal activity, especially the seniors before they graduate. Hopefully, parents are able to donate. So perfect. Thank you very much. Is Board of Education, is Eleanor on, or anybody from the board that needs to give any kind of update?
I'm here. I got to.
Okay, Andrea. Is there anything that we missed that Dr. McGowan didn't say?
No, no. Our focus has been on the calendar that he spoke of, and just the types of reopening that we can see happening, and then of course going into budget season and the ramifications for that. So really, there's nothing more. I think we have teachers who present, and we're doing great things in the school despite it being such a strange time for these kids. And one of the really great things is, and Fres did a presentation, Dr. Rio, that they're honoring and really tapping into our kids who are full remote learners too. So they're pulling them into the school community as best as they can through the things that they're doing in their remote classrooms. So we're working through it, and hopefully this will not last forever.
Hope so, definitely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, Kelsey, you're up.
I see Amy's back. Do we want to?
Okay, yes, Amy, do you have a Fres update for us?
Sorry.
That's okay.
I do have a Fres update. We did a big push to over the holidays do a bunch of food for teachers, but the remote teachers had kind of gotten left out because it was all in-person food. So for Valentine's Day, we made 35, by we, I mean Christina made 35 different bags of treats that were specifically targeted and will be mailed to remote teachers who don't come into the building for Valentine's Day. And we put out another request for funds. I don't know, Kelsey, if you saw any blip on our funds radar.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we got a few more dollars. All right, yeah, text us maybe what that was. And there was a meeting with the principal, with Dina Spagnola about reading that was well attended as well. that's about it.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Amy. All right, now you're up, Kelsey.
Sorry. Yeah. So let me do some screen sharing here. I'll start off with what I usually do, which is this is the budget, and we need to just have it approved. Not a ton of changes, but obviously those things are pretty much going to be the same. Hopefully, Spiritwear will get a boost soon. But as you can see, as of last month, Frez had gotten a little over 1,000, and now it's a bit over 2,000. So good job, Frez. That's really the only major change. Obviously, there's a slight difference in what the effective fees are as a result of that, but that's not that interesting. So may I request some witnesses of the budget?
I'm happy to
I
witness.
see Heather.
And I just want to clarify, this is for this school year, not next year, correct?
Correct. I hope I didn't mess that up. Yeah, so this is just
Kelsey?
updates to what we've been doing. Yes?
Okay, you can hear me. Sorry, I have headphones
Yes.
on and I'm not sure if people can hear me or not. The one thing we wanted to share with our book fair fundraiser that's coming up is that usually we get proceeds as cash that comes to the central PTA for that, but because of the way that Follett, the company, handles the proceeds from the book fair, the only way we're going to get a credit to Tidal Wave, which is a way to order more books. So we're not going to get the usual cash amount for that. So there's a extra thing to be aware of there of we're going to have the ability to buy books, and it's possible we can work out an exchange with the librarians and then maybe get cash back. We're not completely sure on how all of that works, but we're going to need a little bit of your help with that. / we also need to decide as a central PTSA, do we want the book credit? Are we going to just donate it back to the libraries? Do we want to talk to the librarians about a swap for cash somehow? But yeah, there's a complicated item there.
Do we want to wait and see how much money we get, or do we want to decide ahead of time?
That's the other giant question. We have no idea how much we're going to get.
Right.
The way it is, we're going to get, of the whole book fair, 25% of all the sales comes back to the library and to us. Of that 25%, PTSA gets 15% of the 25. So it's usually only around $200. So just being realistic about how much it might be. And if we wanted cash, she would have to take it out of, Miss Katie would have to take it out of her petty cash. So there's a little bit of a, we need
Accounting
to,
issue there too.
Complicated, yeah.
Accounting issue.
I was, I was just going to jump in because Frez already kind of went down this road, and we had $125 in book credit from Scholastic, and Justin McVeigh was super sweet about it, the librarian at Frez, but was sort of like, I cannot get money back to you all. So we just said, like, enjoy the books, and called it closed. It was a real, I mean, I admit it was a bust for Central PTSA for sure this year.
We can handle it. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
kids still get books.
Yeah,
Yes, I think
exactly.
it's more important that we have the book fair than it is to get the money from it.
We could also take, the tidal wave credit that we get as part of PTSA's cut, and we could look at teacher wish lists or something like that and donate books to teachers.
So teachers have a way of creating a wish list in the website, but there's no way we can access what that is because of privacy. So maybe that's something we or chairs can do, like open up the book fair when it's active and like write down what teachers want if they made a wish list.
If you're doing the book fair, maybe if we're really kind of to the public to say, hey, listen, this year we're not going to get anything really for the PTSA because we're going to put it back towards the school so we can get more books versus parents. So parents really know what's going on. They might be more apt to go, oh, I'm going to go buy at least one book to help the school out, knowing that the budgets were all cut. And knowing that we're doing this as like, hey, we're not getting anything out of this except helping the school get books. That might get more parents out there, maybe. I don't know. Just a
Definitely
thought.
on the flyer. Definitely.
Yeah, I
could
was
put in
gonna say,
that.
can we update the flyer with that information?
But proceeds will be, go back.
I'm not sure if we can because Katie Lambert already made the flyer and I believe it's set to go out already.
And that was another question.
half-
We usually only want flyers to go out on Mondays, right? But
Yes.
because this book fair is happening the week right after February break, can we put the flyer out the end of this week instead so we can get people on the alert for it?
Dan's on our meeting, so Dan can answer that. Dan? Are you there? Is he cooking?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
He's here. All right. Did you hear Marian's question?
Could you say it again? I'm sorry.
The middle school book fair is happening in the middle of the week we come back from break. And so if we put a flyer out that Monday, which we plan to do, it doesn't give them much notice. Can we put one out, even though it's not a Monday, one at the end of this week to email to everyone? Because I know people don't like being flooded with PTSA emails, but could this be an exception?
Yeah, absolutely. We're willing to make exceptions when timeliness is needed. So just when you send it to me, just let me know the dates and times that you want to go and I can make it happen.
I'll send you an email today. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And if we can get it today to the principals, they can put it in their newsletter for tomorrow as well, too. And then I think.
Sorry.
That's
Couldn't
okay.
they just add that information to, like with the flyer, put a little thing, if they're putting it in the newsletter, just add to it, hey, just so you know, with this flyer comes along that we're going to waive the PTS earnings back to the school, or however you wanted to word it. We could also maybe put it in Facebook.
It could be on the body of the email.
If that's what's decided, what to do with the proceeds, I can, but I need to know if that's a clear decision.
Does anybody have any other ideas, or is everybody okay with the proceeds going back to the librarians, to the schools?
I'll add it to the blurb.
Yeah, you can put it in the body of the email, maybe before the flyer, and then have it go out.
One other thing about flyers, I got some feedback for one of the French Road things, I think it was, because Dan sends them out and it comes from that no reply email address. If we don't include an email address in the text that gets sent out, people are struggling to find how to contact the correct person. The request was to make it a lot easier to always include an email address for if you have questions about it. So, because otherwise I field random questions because people happen to know I'm involved with PTA, and I'm getting asked about buildings that I know nothing about, but I help them muddle through.
So the options we have to address that is we could make, I could set the emails from PTSA up, so it would still appear as just a generic address, but we could make it so people can reply to it and it would go to a general PTSA address if one exists, or you could just include in each email what email would be most appropriate to respond to. But it's difficult to change the address that you're applying to or that you're sending from for each email if it's changing for each email, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah, Dan, we weren't trying to suggest, we didn't want to make your job harder. I was just suggesting to everybody when they're making their flyers and giving you information to send out, to make sure part of in that inclusion is the email that people should contact if they have questions.
Okay,
I don't want to make it harder for Dan.
Maybe make it bigger and more obvious so that it's easier for people to find.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Heather. Kelsey,
So I had a couple other things. First of all, I got one witness on the budget. Would somebody else be willing to? Okay.
I can second it.
Second. Awesome. So I wanted to share a couple other things. First of all, I have a new form, and then also that feeds into a spreadsheet, which then lets me do this. this is, I think, what people actually care about when they hear about the budget is mostly, what do I have left in my building's funds that's at my discretion to spend? So what I'm looking to see is there a good way for me to take this information and export it to the webpage so that at any time you can just check? That'd be great. It's complicated for reasons that you're not interested in, but I'm working on it. So that's where every building is right now. And if we would like, and actually, Tiffany, you might have thoughts on this. I would be happy to hear about whether SPED would like to have a separate category as well. I'm going to click on a different tab. Does this show you a different tab, or are you still seeing the one you saw before?
Different tab.
Awesome.
Treasury
so this is
form.
the new treasury form. It's really very similar to the old one, but what it has that the other one didn't is a category. And right now, the only ones that have entries are the buildings and calendar. But as people submit requests for reimbursement, those will go into other categories. And this is how you can get a check or a cash box for an in-person event. If you want me to try and do an electronic transfer, we could do that. If you just want to say that there's a deposit from something or that the debit card's been used, you can report all that this way, and it just goes into that one big spreadsheet, which makes it a lot easier to keep track of what money we have available.
That's great, Kelsey.
Yeah, thank you.
So much easier.
I feel like that's what people actually care about. What I would love is if I could get direct information from Square to go into there. And unfortunately, Square will send me an email every time there's a transaction saying how much it was and when it was and who did it, but not for what. So in order to get that information, there's a link in it so I can go sign into Square and get that information, but it doesn't tell me which link was used to buy it. So I am looking for ways to deal with that. I'd love to figure that out. So far, I haven't. What I also wanted to show, part of the reason that I wanted to have that list what things were was, do you see this email chain here from Sangeeta? Yeah, that's not from Sangeeta. That's from Brownie Bear 39. And as I scroll up, you'll see that eventually they asked me to send it to Kent, Washington. So people will actually try and scam me. And fortunately, obviously, I didn't send them money. But that's part of the reason that I want to know, when someone submits a reimbursement request, what is it that they're asking for it from? So if you're saying this is for the, a BHS program, I'd like to be able to check with the BHS chairs and say, hey, does anybody know who this person is? And this is okay or not? So that's, I apologize, that's going to mean some more contacts if I see anything that's unusual. Obviously, almost all the funds that we spend are going to be spent by a very small number of people who are going to be well known to me. So rarely is that really going to be necessary, but it is sort of useful to not send $3,000 to Kent, Washington. So that was fun. One other thing I wanted to say is the way I'm thinking about this is that your building funds plus all of your fundraising, you can just spend. I'm happy to sort of think of that all as up to the discretion of whoever the building chairs are and anyone that they have as, chairs of hospitality or teacher appreciation. That's all just sort of not something that we need to vote on. However, as has already been alluded to elsewhere, it would probably be good for us to have in the budget some named items where the whole board approves that we're just going to support kind of a lot of other things. And that includes signs for seniors or possibly other stuff to sort of celebrate the outgoing class. And I obviously was in a Zoom recently with the BHS folks, and they suggested BASH, a senior fundraiser or other activities, but I haven't heard as much about other buildings because it didn't happen to have a meeting about that. So that's something that I think we should do a little bit more of so that we can have that sort of budgeted for ahead of time. And this year, although my expectation is that we're not going to be making as much of the money as we normally would, we still have like $20,000 in our checking account and $20,000 in our savings account. We have a lot of money that we really shouldn't have. That money should be spent. And this is, I mean, if we're going to have a rainy day fund, this is when it's raining. So I would encourage us to vote for a lot of those things. And as BHS said, they're going to be asking for what that is coming up soon. I'd love to hear other people's thoughts if there's things that they think that we probably ought to have for other buildings, or if you want to talk about that at all, this seems like a good time to do it.
Kelsey, I wonder if like for a grade, just I'll take seniors, for example, if we have a set amount and instead of saying, this is for lawn signs, this is for bash, this is for, balloons for graduation, we say, here's a lump sum that you can use for senior activities. This is your budget, so to speak. You decide how much you want to spend on what activity, or whether you want to cut out an activity or do a different activity. Or if a scenario like this year comes along again, where we're really going to have to think outside the box for bash, it's not going to be a traditional bash, traditional graduation or banquet or anything else, even Springfest. The funds might be used a little differently than they would in a normal year. But then instead of coming back and saying, you gave us 1,000 for bash, but we need 1,200, but you gave us 500 for balloons, but we only need 200. This way, if we just have a lump sum, people aren't bothering you. The BHS chairs or the bash chairs or whoever can say, okay, this is how much we have to work with, and we have to stay within this budget. I don't know. That's just a suggestion.
Yeah. So there's two issues, basically. There's what do we approve as a board, and how is the accounting done? And I think that the way that I would sort of prefer to do things is to approve as a board, say it's $100 per year, like per class year, in building funds for every building. So I think in the future, probably what we ought to do is like 300 for CRPS, FRES, and TCMS, 400 for the high school. And then rather than having them just have a large number of building funds that we approve, have a variety of other activities that we're assuming they will pay for. Once that's approved by the board, it all just goes into the BHS account, and we know what their responsibilities are. They're supposed to be doing things like balloons and bash and Springfest or whatever it is that we approve. But then they figure it out. And on the accounting side, it's just, you've got this big pot of money, you spend it as you see fit. You know what we sort of expected you to do with it. But we're also, and I think this is true of all of our spending, we try to respect donor intent and the intent of the board when they approve spending. But all of that assumes that we're not morons and that we have some more familiarity with what the needs are than the people who approve the money or donated the money, and that we're all going to be pretty reasonable about it. So while I would love it to be the case that if you have, like, you're the chair for FRES, you're keeping track of exactly what it is that people donated money for and what you're spending it on, I think that having a sort of relatively loose, intuitive sense of what it is that people are communicating to you that they want you to do, and you're basically respecting their motives, that seems to me good enough. In fact, probably even better than being very persnickety about spending it on exactly what they said that they wanted and ignoring opportunities to do things that, as you say, are just more efficient. So as long as what we're doing seems like it's the best way that we have to serve Brighton students and families, that seems great. Is that a general orientation that anybody has any problems with or would like to tweak my understanding of it all?
I think that's what the budgeting for the high school had been previously. It was like things lined up, but it didn't add up to the full 800. So there was like some discretionary difference. So 800 was what it was, but the bus tour, which is 1,000, was a separate line in the PTSA budget.
Right.
And so going forward, this is a conversation we don't need to have now, but senior signs are going to be around 2,700 a year. And again, that's a conversation for later to talk about community donations, but just that would need to be a separate line item and not in the BHS budget.
Well, so I think it would be approved as a separate line item, but then get put into your budget for spending. Does that make sense? So we would have, a whole bunch of things that we just say, hey, we're going to approve 2,700 for signs. We're going to approve, $150 for cocoa and cram or whatever it is. And then all of that goes into BHS. We assume that you're going to be the people who do that and execute it as makes sense. Oh, and here's the fun part. At the end of the year, those aren't real accounts. This is all just being spent from our, PTSA account, and it doesn't carry over. So you don't have to worry about like, oh, well, we need to set the right precedents for future years or anything where budgeting ends up being ridiculous. It's just everybody starts fresh.
Maybe in the future we can discuss specific fundraisers for the senior class
Yeah.
like the buses and the signs, just one big some fun something. Like Michelle's idea, you could be dunking teachers to buy the kids signs in the bus to visit their schools or something. I don't know. Something that's just geared toward senior events like that.
And normally seniors help pay for a lot of this stuff out of their own fundraising that they do the senior class. That's like the ham
Have
jam.
any.
But last I heard, they're not able to do that this year. So I mean, this year's thrown off, but I think you're
Yeah, but-
absolutely right, Leslie.
And
going
their money
forward.
goes to prom too, and
Yeah.
I mean, there are
They usually
other
have a class
events.
gift. They usually have a
Yeah,
class
and the
gift. at
class
end of the
gift,
year.
right?
They
You know,
leave
I feel
behind
like
the
we
gift.
should be able to help the seniors out with fundraising for these
Well, and going forward,
recognition things going forward. Yeah,
the middle schoolers won't have the money either because they've missed out
That's
on
right.
activity nights. So
Yeah, that's
from last
just gonna
spring
chime
and
in
all of
with.
this year, so they're not going to have the money going
Mhm.
into the closure party and or going forward either. So it is something that we have to, the trickle down effect will be there for a
we
few
need to
years.
have a super sale like they have in Pittsburgh where they raise like $70,000.
Yeah. We need a barn. Who's got a barn?
Yeah, I know,
for
right? We need a
everything? We need storage space to store all that, but yeah,
Mhm.
they do raise a ton of money that way.
Yeah,
Um,
but an event, I'm just saying a big event, something
big
big,
event.
I don't know. Well, the
well, food truck
food
rodeo
truck
is always
rodeo
really
is a
good,
good
but we
one. Yeah,
couldn't do that this year. Maybe
Yeah.
at the end of the year, we can try to
maybe
do,
in the spring we could do, yeah, at the
yeah.
end.
Or June, maybe around June when they're planning on doing all the senior events. That's something that we can do.
As Singita was mentioning, actually, the trickle down effect is something we can stop by just, if we say, look, we understand what it is that people tend to be able to raise. And as a PTSA, we can just make up for that this year. Then that kind of prevents that from being an issue, right? Like if the class of 2027 right now is in a hole of like $2,000 compared to what other classes would be, you can just vote to give them $2,000. And the bad news with that is it seems to devalue the efforts of other classes, which were actually trying to do these things. But it seems like it prevents that equity issue from being an issue, where part of what's going on is people are staying home and not doing their fundraising, which is a responsible thing that they should be doing. We want to support that. So anyway.
Online fundraisers, if we can find more, or take
Yeah,
out fundraiser, take out fundraisers where you take out food.
Yeah, that email about
Mhm.
a restaurant for each building, something like
Yeah.
that.
A different week, each building sponsors a restaurant
Yeah,
and you do take out on a different night.
maybe we could try
Okay.
that. Those are so easy to set up.
Right. Most of them you can set up online
Yeah,
and then just have, the proceeds just go directly into our account. It's kind of an easy way. It's like the cookie dough. It's pretty an easy way to make money with minimal effort. So,
mhm.
but yeah, so think about it. Like BHS said, they'll be back next month with, I think, actual numbers of what we're going to need to help fund for end of year activities for BHS. So we'll have a better idea then. Another idea for a fundraiser is, now that we have our new logo, our new mascot and our new logo, we generally have a spirit wear sale in the spring. So that is something that we can do in the spring, sell t-shirts and spirit wear with our new logo and our new mascot on there. I don't know how people feel about that, having another spirit wear sale. It would be, again, just like the one in the fall, completely online. A mask. I see that, Michelle, you put mask on there. I know the school's doing some spirit wear sale. I just heard Dr. McGowan mention that too. They're doing a spirit wear sale next week. They're sending it out. So maybe we wait until April and do more t-shirts and shorts. We do more summer gear than we do winter gear.
They're not doing masks within that. You could do just a PTSA mask,
A mask
just masks, and then it's all the schools.
and just do a mask with a logo.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not including that, just a thought.
Yeah, we can look into that.
My only recommendation, I know in the fall we did the spirit wear and I always buy stuff, and I purchased the sweatpants, and I don't know what product they use or where the cotton came from, but I washed it once and they were pilling and shrunk. But maybe I gained COVID weight as well. So I don't
No, I don't think so, Tiffany. I think that we had some issues in the fall because inventory became an issue and
Okay.
supply became an issue because the first batch of sweatpants that we got were, I think they're normal sweatpants and the quality that they normally serve. And then we had like another batch come through and those, they couldn't get the same brand. They couldn't get the same quality
Right.
because of supply chains and because of inventory. And so we did, and the sizes were completely off. If you ordered a small, it came out looking like a large, and then some of the larges looked like extra small. So there
Yeah.
was a lot of that. And it was a lot of supply chain issues, which I'm hoping by now is not as much of an issue. Inventory and supply chains is not nearly as much of an issue. And I think this time around, if they tell us a particular product has supply chain issue, we would just email people back and say, we're just not going to offer this product. If you want to get something else that they know that they have in stock and that is a quality product, we do that. But no, I think you weren't the only one, Tiffany. So I'm sorry about that. But yeah, you weren't the only one.
Okay.
It was a manufacturing, yeah. And I think the company tried really hard to try to fix things for us. I think they were kind of just frustrated too, because they weren't getting their product.
So one last thing I wanted to mention, although that spreadsheet that I showed earlier is pretty well updated, it doesn't have anything that I haven't received the reimbursement request for yet, which is going to be important because I know that one of the big ones from BHS hasn't come in yet. And I don't think I've seen a reimbursement request from Council Rock this year, this school year, I should say. So
I know that Lindsay should have given you at least one reimbursement.
I might have actually put that for the wrong thing then.
And I know there was two, but I think she lost the receipt on the first one.
Got it.
So, and it was just for teacher appreciation. I'll put a note out to her to ask.
Oh, wait, no. So I have something from Lindsay for a FRES faculty meeting. Was that for Council Rock?
Lindsay Keck is Council Rock.
Okay. So I think that was probably just wrote the wrong thing. Wonderful.
Yeah, her last K-E-C-K is her last name.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, she's Council Rock.
Looking right at the submission here. So good to know. Thanks.
What's the procedure if one of your people lose their receipts for an event that you know that they spent money on?
I don't have
one. In the past, we've just had people call and say, I lost the receipt. I bought at, such and such at Wegmans, and they got reimbursed. I mean, we didn't, you don't want somebody to be out money.
Should I tell her that? I know it was like Dunkin' Donuts. It was donuts for in September, I think it was. I can't remember exactly what
we've done in the past. Even if she just calls Dunkin' Donuts and says, oh, if I bought 2 dozen donuts, how much would it be? And gets the amount if she remembers what she bought. I mean, we always reimbursed people, Kelsey, in the past. I don't know if you have a different policy, but we never wanted anybody to be out money and feel like, wow, I tried to help and now I lost the receipt and here I am out whatever amount.
She was very gracious about it. She's like, no big deal. It's for the school, but I can let her know.
Yeah.
She can go with it however she wants to.
If it's something that they bought with a credit card, you could probably even have them just check their credit card statement and get the exact amount that way.
I'll let her know.
But obviously we would prefer to have receipts. So
yes. When they buy something, just take a picture of the receipt and text it directly to Kelsey.
Or actually you can use the form that I showed earlier.
Use the form now, yeah.
Upload it.
So then, yeah, it's easy.
And then it goes straight into the Google Drive. And so it's part of our records forever, which is great.
So we don't want anybody to be out money. We don't want to turn away volunteers that way. That's
Kelsey, what do you do with that? What did you just say? How do you do that?
So if you go to the website and you know what, why don't I go to the website and I'll share my screen. So if you go to BCSD and check out the Brighton PTSA page, down here is forms and logos for event chairs. And this is really the page where I just put everything that I care about. So this link here, reimbursement check voucher form, brings you to the treasury form. And that's kind of everything that we're going to be using until we have cash boxes. Once we have cash boxes, we'll have the money handling form. But until we start doing in-person sales again, that's not going to matter. So here, one of the things that you will do is add a file, and that can be like a picture of a receipt, or if you've got a digital receipt that you've got as a PDF, you can put it that way. And actually, Christina Pearson recently noticed that I only have this allowing you to add one file. So I've changed that. So now you can add up to 5 receipts in the same time. And that just goes into that spreadsheet that I showed you earlier. So those go into the drive, and there's a link to in the spreadsheet to the file. So whatever future treasurers there are can go and look at any of those. It's wonderfully easy. I love it. But I think that's
Thank
all I
you.
had from treasurer stuff. So we can move on to, I think it was Nancy Beck.
Okay. Nancy Beck.
So I finally got, I'm still waiting for one from Council Rock, but I have 10 grants now. So we will be meeting the week after break. I wanted to make sure we got one, at least one from every building.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. And you have all the committee members, correct? You're all set?
No, I have, I don't have a member from the middle school, Council Rock or French Road.
Oh,
Hey, hey,
volunteers?
Leslie,
I believe middle, oh,
go ahead, honey.
We don't
believe
have to
the-
have one from every building. I just, in the past, it's been that way. So anybody that wants to join can let me know. Just
I
send me
believe
an
our
email.
middle school rep is supposed to be Daisy Hutchinson. So if you can reach out to her, she was the one who had volunteered from our building, the middle school.
Okay, are you sure? Because I had mentioned something to her and she didn't know about that.
That's a whole other question. We have a lot of problems with that right now. So maybe you can get her straightened out.
Okay,
so you only have 3 people right now, Leslie? Because you need a few more people.
yeah. Tiffany, do you want to join? I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I'll join. Also, I didn't even realize it was Nancy Beck time, and usually SPED submits something.
Excellent. I am taking anything, since it's break next week, we're not going to meet next week. We'll meet the week after. I will take anything late.
Can you send, where is the link? Is it on the website? I can just.
It's on the website, yeah. But I can, I think I have your phone number. I can just text you the link if you want, or I'll email it to you so you have it.
Yep, and I'll sit on the meeting as well. Just let me know.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah.
Leslie, if you need more people, I'll sit on it too. If you
Okay.
need more volunteers, I'm happy to sit on it.
Yeah, Leslie, if you can get in touch with me, I know we've been talking back and forth in regards to Council Rock stuff, but if you want to give me a call or text me more information about what you need, I most likely
I
can
don't
help you.
need anything. We just get together with David Beck and go over the grants. And so there's usually a rep from each building, but there doesn't have to be. There can be.
I can do Council Rock, but this is my last year in Council Rock, but I can do it for you this year.
Sure.
So.
It's, I mean,
Okay.
you're just gonna really, we're just talking about what was submitted and whether you think he should fund it or not.
Okay, yeah, I have no problems with helping you out on that. So do you need
Okay.
well, you have my text message. Do you need anything else from me?
Nope, I have your email. That's all I
Okay.
need.
Okay.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you. And then Emily, if you're on, just lifetime membership. I don't know if you've got a date. We are going to do that this year. It will be virtual. It will be, I believe, the first week of May. I don't know if Emily's on there or not. But yeah, we are going to do a lifetime membership this year. It's on the calendar and we're just going to do it virtually. So basically just want to let you know about that. So we will be buying I think we buy them pins for all the teachers or all the people that get nominated. So we'll be doing that this year. So new business, and is Emily on here? Because we do need to, Emily sent out an email the other day with some amendments to our bylaws. Not sure if everyone had a chance to look at those. We do need to approve those because we need to submit them to the state.
She had to step out for a dead car battery.
Oh, yes, I
I'm
saw
happy
that.
to move that we approve them.
Can anybody second?
I'll second.
Leslie, thank you. Okay, Kelsey and Leslie. Perfect. The other thing is Festival of Ideas that is going to happen virtually this year. So I think what we're going to do is a lot of the people that generally have classes at the at Festival of Ideas are going to submit online resources that families and parents can click onto and either have demonstrations or, have like a little talk or demonstration, something like that. I'm not really sure what they're going to submit, but there's going to be some online resources. And then the day of Festival of Ideas, it's going to be Brighten Your Mind Day, and it's going to be a family challenge. And it's going to be a challenge of learning something new. So it can be learn a new recipe, take a hike in a place that you've never hiked before, do a science experiment. It can, whatever you want it to be, really, just be as creative as you want to. And the idea is taking pictures of you doing this new activity, brightening your mind, and then submitting it to Festival of Ideas, and they'll have their Facebook page and the Brighton page and post all the pictures to show people participating in this virtually. So the Festival of Ideas Committee is going to work on that, but we are going to try to do something virtually for the kids for, I think that's 3 to 8, grades 3 to 8. Debbie Baker had contacted me to see if we wanted her to do a talk on the district initiative for diversity, equity, and inclusion. They sent out, they created the new webpage. They have a new committee that is working very hard on the DEI initiative in the district. So if we want her to do a little talk to let us know what's going on in the district and how we can be involved, and just kind of walk us through the website, that's something that she has offered to do for us at any one of our meetings. So if people are interested, you can either raise your hand or just say yes in the chat. And as long as we have people that are interested, we can have her pop in maybe at our next meeting for 10 or 15 minutes and just give us a little talk and a little update. So awesome. Yeah, you can put your little thumbs up on your screens. I can see those too. And then the last thing that I have is if we, in a couple months ago,
Sangeeta?
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing about that too?
Sure.
I think that's a great idea about Debbie doing it. I know I sit on a committee with Tiffany, actually. And I think it'd be great to have, even if you have parents that are part of those committees, like Tiffany or somebody, report on what they're doing within their individual groups, because the diversity and equity committee is one large committee that is broken into 3 different groups, and we sit on student engagement. So and actually the student engagement one is probably, I mean, they're all important, but hers is this one is, we're doing some interesting things. So
okay,
I hate to put you on the spot, Tiffany, but I know you're on the committee, and you could speak to what we've been doing there.
Awesome. All right. Well, Tiffany, I will touch base with you separately, if that's okay, about giving us an update, maybe in the next meeting or the one after that, whatever's convenient for you. So thank you. Thank you, Andrea. And finally, I have a couple months ago, Betsy Balling and the counselors in the district did a talk for us, just talking about the mental health of our students during this COVID time and just in general. And if they were asking if we want them to do a follow-up meeting for us, maybe at the end of the year, April, May, just taking into consideration where we are with COVID at that point, what's going on with school. Maybe we'll have some idea of what's going on in the summer or the following year. They are happy to do a follow-up meeting for us if we would like to do that. And that would just be like an extra meeting, not one of our planned PTSA meetings. We would pick a random night that they could all do it and have an extra meeting. So I think it's a great idea. I think that, TCMS had the meeting last week about parenting during COVID. And I think all these topics are just really on everyone's mind as we continue to go through this year and still have so much uncertainty, and the kids having so much uncertainty. So I will try to, unless anybody's opposed to that, I will try to schedule that for maybe May with them.
Heather, are these recorded?
Yes.
And will those be also put up on that webpage?
Yes, I can. So that is recorded. Dan, the district actually records that one for me, or Betsy records it. Someone in the district records it, and Dan usually has it up the next day with a link onto YouTube, but we can definitely get it on the website too, of course.
I think that would be great for people to be able to, I know there's a couple that I'm like, I'd like to go back and try to find out where that was.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, no, we do record them, and we can definitely have them on the website as well. Great idea.
Fabulous.
So, and I think that's it, unless anybody else has anything else.
I just have a really quick thing when you mention a random night. So my new role is at Willow. For those that do not know what Willow does, we handle domestic violence. And I was meeting with our educator yesterday. Sorry, my days are all mushed together. And I guess this is more for the VHS team of people here. What do you think about hosting and for the parents, signs of abuse in teen relationships? I don't know.
I know they covered some of that in health class, but to be reminded or to have it special focused, I see that's.
I would definitely involve the health teacher team, you know, and connect them with our educator here. But what do you guys think? Specifically for parents.
Yeah, I think the health.
And then I don't know, she goes into the, well, she used to go into the schools to teach for kids. So, but yeah, I wanted to do something for the parents on recognizing signs.
I think it's a great idea. And the
Could you
more
open that up to the district? I don't even know that necessarily has to be high school, because there's little kids that are being abused maybe by not mom and dad, but you know, a babysitter, a grandparent, an uncle, like other different signs of abuse that parents could look for. I think that's great to open up to the whole district, if that's okay with you.
Oh yeah, that's fine. I'll email Kevin.
Yeah.
Just to and CCU, Sangeeta, and go from there.
Yeah,
But
perfect. That would
I
be
immediately
great.
thought, I'm like, this would be a good parent.
That would be, yeah, I think that would be great, especially during COVID, where I think
the
numbers of, you know, with abuse, I mean,
it's
statistics are
actually
rising.
almost doubled in our county.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
Tiffany, I would suggest you email Kevin, and like Dan's on right now, I think, and he certainly could bring that forward as well. But I think that's a great idea.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So I do like the idea that you had of focusing on teenage relationships. So, I mean, yes, bring it district-wide, but maybe each school have a different focus, because, I mean, elementary school kids aren't having relationships with each other, but you're right, Sangeeta, they should also have awareness. So I
was thinking the same thing, Marian, to have something that's kind of touches base at the right appropriate levels for each grade, for kids and for the parents, and have it be kind of, let's make our community be a safer place by educating everybody.
Could that be a meeting with the principal? Could that be a topic for meetings with the principal?
I can email all the principals as well.
You know, at each school, and just say this is
going to be like a mental health awareness. It sounds like that's
what's that'll go in with the mental health talk.
Yeah, signs and, you know, signs to look for.
If those are recorded, we could put them on that page as well, so people can go, if they don't want to be seen on the actual meeting, they can go and see it on their own. Because some people don't want to, like, I don't want to be part of that. You know, they might want to have more of the privacy. So if we can record it and put it out on the web page, we can say, hey, it's, if you can't make the meeting, here it is.
Recorded. Yeah. No, I agree. That's a great suggestion, Tiffany. Excellent suggestion. Thank you. Yeah, I think meeting with the principals for age appropriate, and then maybe, you know, with the district for general signs of abuse. Perfect. Awesome. Anybody else got anything else they want to talk about or bring up? Nope. All good. All right. I think we are done.
Stay healthy, everybody.
Everyone, have a nice break. Yep. Stay healthy. Definitely.
And happy Valentine's Day.
Stay warm. Stay happy. All of it. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks all for coming.